Have you guys ever died in the woods? Me neither. But there have been a couple times that I thought I would. My life kind of flashed before my eyes. Yeah, I have some issues. So today we're going to talk about 3 times I was in the woods and thought I was going to die. I didn't die, but I thought I was going to. First, I want to say all of these stories are completely true. I'm not going to lie to you because I love Jesus. So me and the guys, Josh, Andrew, Zach, and Morgan, were wandering through the woods for reasons that are lost at time. We don't really remember. But anyway, we're wandering along and we come to... I was in the lead. I came to a hill. I run to the top of the hill, and before me I see... you remember that giant pit from Star Wars, the Sarlacc? It was just like that, without the sand and the man-eating plant and all of the stuff that made it the pit from Star Wars. But like it was this giant sinkhole, and the sides sloped in to this giant dark pit of pure black at the bottom, just like my soul. So I run up and I just freeze. And I'm looking at this thing, and everybody else comes to the top too and they freeze. Except for Morgan, who goes, "Ben, hold my phone." He throws me his phone, I catch it, and before anyone can stop him, he jumps in. So for about a fraction of a second, it looked really cool. Then he hit the bottom, his feet went out from under him, and he went halfway into the hole before he cut the top and stopped himself from falling in. And we're all panicking, we don't really know what to do, so I go and I grab this giant tree branch and I lower it down to Morgan. And I say, "Morgan, grab the branch, I'm going to pull you out." But instead of grabbing the branch and getting himself pulled out, he pulls the branch out of my hands, sticks it in the hole to see how deep it is. And we're like, "Morgan, stop it," and he's just not listening to us. So Josh and I decide that we can't just let him be Boba Fett. And so I grab Josh's hand, Josh grabs a tree and he lowers me down, and I pulled Morgan out. And we managed to convince him to get out of the hole. But as we were getting him out, we kicked up a bunch of ground wasps. So he's like, "I want to go back in." We're like, "No, there are ground wasps, we have to go." So to this day, every time we go back to that sinkhole, it's a little bit deeper and a little bit wider. We have no idea how deep it's going to end up being. Story number 2. So, again, me and the guys were in the woods, this time without Morgan. We were playing Infected, which for those of you who don't know is kind of like zombie tag, last person not tagged wins, except we fought with swords. Our specific rules were sort of weird, but that's not the point. So anyway, me and Josh were about to start fighting when we heard this weird, high-pitched droning sound. We'd never heard this in the woods before, this wasn't a normal sound, so we kind of stopped for a minute, and we were trying to figure out what it was. We decided to drop the game and go try to find everybody else and see what was going on. So as we walk, the noise gets louder and louder. It goes from a sort of a droning to this sort of unearthly warbling sound, like demon turkeys. And so we're going along, and after a while we start to hear a rustling, and it's getting louder, and we start yelling for everybody else because we're kind of worried now, and we don't know where everyone else is. We found Andrew, but we couldn't find Josh and Zach. Zach apparently had gone back to the house because he got bored, but Josh was still out there. And so we crest a hill, and there's Josh running toward us, and behind him there's this huge line of bushes that's all rustling like a giant tiny army is running toward us, and all of the bushes are moving like a wave. So Josh comes toward us, and we all react in our own ways. I jumped onto a log, Andrew picked up a sword, Josh hid behind a tree, and we all watch in the bushes. And all of a sudden, out of the bushes bursts 30 beagles. There were about 30 beagles that just ran toward us barking, turned around, and ran back into the woods. And we're like, "What the crap? What just happened?" Apparently there was a man up there rabbit hunting, and he was a nice guy. He was using the beagles to scare the rabbits toward himself, and no one ended up getting mauled by demon turkeys, so overall things turned out pretty well. Story number 3. So we've been over sinkholes and killer beagles, and both of those times there were moments when I thought I was going to die. But overall, of the 3 stories, this one takes the cake for me thinking I was going to die the most. So Joel and I were climbing up some mountains by his house. This was just him and me. And the whole climb, he had been talking about this beehive that he had seen last time he was up there, and he kept telling me, "Man, it was so cool. What time of the year is it that they hibernate?" It was like, "It's about October." So it was pretty cold at times, and we figured maybe they're hibernating. And he really wanted to try that honey. So when we reached the rock structure that it was on, there was this huge rock sticking out of the ground, like at least 50 or 60 feet high. And he's like, "It's at the top, we need to climb up." So we climbed up without much incident. There was a couple of parts that were kind of hard, but we made it up without any real problems. When we got up to the top, Joel was a little bit in front of me, and I couldn't see what he was looking at. So he goes up and starts poking at the beehive immediately. And I get up and I see that that's not a honeybee hive, which he had insisted that it was. It was a paper wasp nest. So I yelled, Joel, don't poke at that. He's like, it's fine, they're hibernating, it's fine. And so I'm like, no, Joel. And he says, it's okay, nothing's in there. And then within seconds of him saying that, a paper wasp climbs out and starts buzzing toward us. And I yell, go! And we run to the edge of the rock face and we start climbing down. So we were climbing down and we came to this area that was like a shelf over the river, this slanted rock shelf over a body of water that was somewhere between a really big stream and a really small river. And so Joel, wearing his dry rubber shoes, runs across without any problems. But I had those cheap sort of running shoes that have foam on the bottom, and mine were already wet. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to make it across these rocks. So I grabbed onto these plants, and I started climbing across using these plants sticking out of the wall. But every time I was done using one, it pulled out of the wall, which was kind of panic-inducing. Because I was like, man, if I was just a couple seconds slower each time, I would have fallen. And at the time, I didn't think about the fact that I would have just ended up a little bit sore and a little bit wet. I was thinking if I fell, that was it. So we made it across, and we got down, and no one died. To this day, I tease Joel about how he can't tell the difference between a honeybee and a paper wasp. So those are the stories of the times that I've almost died in the woods, or thought I was going to. If you guys enjoyed this video, please comment, like, and subscribe, and let me know if you want to see any other videos like this, and where you'd like to know where I didn't die.